Reality check glasses. Seeing too much nonsense? Put on your reality check glasses and get instant clarity. Some people don't need arguments, debates, or think pieces. They just need reality check glasses. The only eyewear designed to cut through delusion at 4K resolution. Slip them on and suddenly the nonsense clears, the excuses fade, and the truth stands there, waving like a traffic warden on overtime. Reality check glasses, because some people see what they want, until the truth taps them on the shoulder.
Introducing Hypocrisy Begone Wipes, the only wipes strong enough to tackle the mess people make when their words and actions stop matching. One swipe and the double standards evaporate, the contradictions dissolve, and the performance falls apart like cheap tissue in a rainstorm. Hypocrisy Begone Wipes. Wipe away the double standards, no streaks, no smears, just the truth shining back at them.
Let's get straight into it, because pretending the last few days haven't been absolute chaos would be delusional. The timeline moved like a thriller. First the headlines about TPS changes, then the fraud indictments, then the receipts dropping online like confetti at a parade nobody asked for. And at the center of it all? Not whispers, not rumors, not insinuations. Actual Somali individuals, Somali clinics, Somali non-profits, Somali TikTokers who've been running their mouths for years like they were immune to gravity. And now gravity is here, because the Somali TPS story didn't explode in isolation. It didn't appear out of thin air. You don't revoke TPS because one person forged a form. TPS shifts when patterns appear, when behaviours repeat, when enough Somali-run organisations start bleeding money out of the system that even the blind spots burn away. Over the past few days, the fraud cases hit the public like a truck, and let's be clear, these weren't small-time desperate scams. These were calculated operations. These were Somali-run autism centres that didn't exist, Somali therapists who were only licensed in the imagination, Somali non-profits designed to look humanitarian but coded in the back end like laundering stations, invoices for services never delivered, billing for children never seen, therapy hours that exceeded the hours in a day, Somali administrators moving funds like they were shuffling playlists, and the audacity, the casualness of it, Somali workers bragging online, literally laughing at the American system like it was a toddler trying to do algebra, talking about loopholes, talking about how these Americans are so slow, talking about how the money is easy, talking about how this country is stupid. Imagine scamming someone and insulting them at the same time. That's not crime, that's personality disorder. Then add the long history of Somali TikTokers, not all, but enough to matter, talking down on black Americans, saying we are a different race, we are superior, we are not like you, we are Somali, not black, we don't mess with black Americans are lazy, black Americans are beneath us. Those Somali individuals were bold with it, loud with it, aggressive with it, and now that the fraud receipts have surfaced, now they want silence, now they want sympathy, now they want protection they spent years mocking. Absolutely not. Actions are receipts, and karma has an archives folder. Let's connect the dots the way the public did, painfully, quickly, and without mercy. Dot 1. Somali individuals loudly declaring themselves a separate race. Dot 2. Somali individuals insulting black Americans for years with their chests. Dot 3. Somali scammers running multi-million-dollar schemes under TPS protection. Dot 4. Somali non-profits siphoning funds in broad daylight. Dot 5. Somali TikTokers bragging about exploiting America. Dot 6. Somali TPS suddenly under review. Nobody needed a detective. The picture painted itself, and here's the part the internet clocked instantly. The same Somali individuals screaming superiority were living in housing funded by black workers, using benefits funded by black taxpayers, using Medicaid funded by black labour, and walking around the country, acting like they were chosen royalty while contributing nothing but attitude. It's always the most arrogant who contribute the least. But let's break it down deeper, because this isn't one scandal. It's the intersection of three simultaneous collapses. 1. TPS collapse, fraud exposure, anti-black arrogance, finally meeting consequence. None of these things started this week. This week was simply the reveal. TPS collapse. TPS is a humanitarian shield, not a cheat code. It protects people from instability back home. It is not a license to commit fraud. It is not a shield against audits. It is not immunity from consequences. Somali TPS has been renewed again and again, even though Somalia has been in temporary crisis since before some of these TikTok scammers were born. And while many Somali families used TPS legitimately, some Somali individuals used it as a backdrop for schemes the system wasn't built to detect. That's the problem. TPS assumes good faith. Fraudsters assume stupidity. Only one can survive. The fraud exposure. Let's talk specifics, not vague accusations. These Somali-run fraud rings were not small, accidental, misguided, confused, or isolated. They were organized, digital, structured, interconnected, deliberate. Some of the Somali clinics charged Medicaid for autism services for over 300 children, but investigators found only 17 were ever seen. Somali non-profits filed grants for programs that had no staff, no offices, and no community presence. Somali administrators billed therapy hours that would require 40 therapists working 26 hours per day. Somali business owners purchased homes, cars, and luxury goods entirely from government reimbursements. This was not survival. This was empire building on paperwork. Anti-black arrogance. Now layer on top of that the years of Somali TikTokers, not all, but enough to matter, using the internet as a megaphone for their superiority complex. The videos weren't subtle, they weren't coded, they weren't misunderstood. These Somali individuals declared, Somalis are a different race. We are superior to Black Americans. Black Americans are beneath us. We don't date them. We don't want to be associated with them. We don't consider them like us. While living in black majority cities, while benefiting from tax programs heavily funded by black workers, while using systems built on the political activism of Black Americans, while mocking the very people whose ancestors fought for the civil rights they are using, the arrogance is insane, the cognitive dissonance is Olympic level, the public snap point. The reaction didn't erupt because of one scandal. It erupted because, for years, Somali TikTokers insulted Black Americans and Black people. For years, Somali commenters acted racially superior. For years, Somali individuals declared themselves separate. For years, Somali influencers mocked African American culture, and for years Black Americans stayed quiet. But the moment Somali fraud indictments dropped, and the moment Somali TPS was touched, and the moment the Somali superiority rhetoric resurfaced, the silence ended. People finally connected the dots. So you're insulting us, calling yourselves a different race, benefiting from systems we fought for, scamming programs we pay for, mocking us online and expecting immunity. Nah. Hypocrisy is the real crime because fraud can be prosecuted, fraud can be fixed, fraud can be refunded. But hypocrisy creates anger, hypocrisy creates resentment, hypocrisy exposes character, hypocrisy creates the kind of backlash no policy can stop. When Somali individuals said, "We're not black," they placed themselves above Black Americans. When Somali scammers exploited systems funded by black labor, they positioned themselves below human decency. When Somali TikTokers mocked Black Americans for being lazy, while Somali fraudsters stole millions through fake clinics, that hypocrisy snapped the public's patience like a twig in winter. When Somali influencers said, "We don't need Black Americans, we're better," they forgot TPS is not citizenship. They forgot fraud leaves a trail. They forgot arrogance is evidence. TPS revocation wasn't racist. It was responsive. Somali TPS didn't get revoked because of ethnicity. It got revoked because Somali fraud schemes were exposed, Somali non-profits were indicted, Somali clinics were raided. Somali individuals mocked America online. Somali individuals insulted Black Americans, Somali influencers, bragged about exploiting loopholes. Somali scammers drained millions. Somali arrogance made consequences inevitable. It was the behaviour, not the ethnicity, not the nationality, not the culture, not the religion. The behaviour. Behaviour has consequences. You can't scream, "We are not black, we are superior," and then run to black American activism for defence. You can't mock, "Black Americans are lazy," when Somali scammers were literally committing fraud because they didn't want to work. You can't laugh, "Black Americans are stupid," when Somali TikTokers were recording themselves bragging about crimes. You can't insult, "Black Americans don't contribute," when the fraud cases show Somali scammers bleeding the system dry. You cannot insult a people and rely on their tax money simultaneously. Not forever. The internet's verdict. The internet saw Somali individuals insulting black Americans for years. Somali individuals declaring themselves a distinct race. Somali individuals mocking the country sheltering them. Somali individuals bragging about exploiting benefits. Somali individuals running fake autism clinics. Somali individuals siphoning millions. Somali individuals using TPS as a cloak. And the internet said, enough. What this script is really about, not Somalis as a group, not Somalis as an ethnicity, not Somalis as a culture. This is about specific Somali individuals whose behaviour was loud, arrogant, recorded, and now has consequences. It's about the Somali scammers, the Somali TikTokers with superiority complexes, the Somali influencers insulting black Americans, the Somali non-profits running schemes, the Somali clinics billing ghosts, the Somali individuals who thought TPS was a throne. And the conclusion is simple. You cannot insult a community, live in their cities, use their tax programs, depend on their political victories, mock their culture, exploit their government, commit fraud in their country, brag about it online, and then be shocked when the country finally says, enough. TPS was temporary, fraud was deliberate, arrogance was recorded, and consequences were always coming. Stay tuned for a quick message from our sponsors.
Truth Serum Energy Drink. The boost nobody asked for, but everybody needs. Introducing Truth Serum Energy Drink, the only beverage that slaps your frontal lobe awake and kicks your filter into the Thames. Feeling too polite? Too professional? Too, let me word this carefully? Nah. One sip and suddenly you're narrating reality like a fed-up oracle with Wi-Fi. This luminous little chaos can launch brutal honesty missiles mid-meeting, trigger spontaneous confessions you didn't even know you were holding, make you say, actually that outfit does age you, out loud, convert 2 hours of social anxiety into 8 seconds of unfiltered clarity. Warning, side effects may include accidental truth bombs, career-limiting statements, the end of workplace harmony, and unexpected peace because you finally said what you meant. Truth Serum Energy Drink. Spill the real tea by force.
Invisible Ink. Social Media Edition. Post boldly. Regret safely. Say hello to Invisible Ink. Social Media Edition. The app-powered posting potion that lets you fire off your hottest, spiciest, I probably shouldn't, takes, then auto-erase them from existence in 10 minutes. Write the rant, drag your ex, expose your workplace, declare war on your group chat, post the meme you know HR would use against you in court. It doesn't matter. Invisible Ink whispers, shh, it's gone. Features include vanishing posts that self-destruct faster than your will to be fake, heat-proof filters for rage posting, public amnesia mode for when you're not that person today, 10-minute redemption window so you never have to face your own chaos. Perfect for hot takes, midnight hunger tweets, emotional soliloquies, and oops, my bad, I didn't mean that moments. Invisible Ink, because your thoughts deserve freedom, not permanent evidence.
The moment the indictments dropped and TPS got touched, everything changed. Not slowly, not gradually, not politely, instantly, like America flipped a switch and half the internet got dragged into a narrative black hole they weren't prepared for. This wasn't a scandal, this was a rupture, a tear in the fabric of the curated online illusion. and the fallout hit on 3 battlefields simultaneously: politics, social media, and the Black American response. Let's start where the flames were hottest. The political fallout. Everybody panic now. The politicians reacted like someone dropped a grenade in the middle of their group chat. Lines rehearsed for years weren't working. Talking points evaporated. Everyone's PR team started typing like their jobs depended on it, because they did. Ilhan Omar's name was trending before sunrise, not for a bill she passed, not for a humanitarian cause, but because the internet started dragging out archived clips, inconsistencies, old speeches, old interviews, old translations, old tweets. Suddenly her entire public record was under forensic review, like she was being audited by the universe. Commentators didn't even need to do deep digging. The clips were already everywhere. All the stuff she thought people forgot resurfaced like a ghost with a megaphone. Every politician who had built their career on simplified narratives about immigration started glitching. They weren't prepared for fraud plus TPS plus online arrogance plus TikTok receipts to collide at once. Republicans smelled blood, Democrats smelled disaster, immigration lawyers smelled paperwork, journalists smelled views. The whole establishment moved like ants when the hill gets kicked, scattered, frantic, directionless. Because for once this wasn't a debate, this wasn't theoretical, this wasn't emotional, this wasn't ideological, this was evidence, indictments, audits, fraud patterns, millions missing, real cases, real documents, real consequences. Politicians were scrambling for stable ground while the floor collapsed underneath them. The social media meltdown. Delete everything. Then there was TikTok, and the biggest crime scene of all. Within hours of the news breaking, videos vanished, accounts went private, comments got shut off, pages rebranded. Whole histories were wiped. It was like a digital evacuation, people running from their own archives, deleting the exact content that got them attention in the first place. The superiority clips, gone. The "we're not like them" speeches, gone. The "we're built different" monologues, gone. The jokes about Black Americans, deleted. The disrespectful stitches, privated. The duets mocking African American culture, removed. The skits, hidden. The mock interviews, scrubbed. The pages where people talked down on entire communities, ghosted. You could literally watch the panic like watching rats flee a sinking ship in 4K. And the irony, the internet had already screen recorded everything. Once something is online, it's immortal. Deleting it is like burning paper in a world made of scanners. So now you had users posting, I never said that. This is taken out of context. That was just a joke. I don't think like that. Stop bringing up old videos. Meanwhile, the old videos were playing underneath their denials like a split-screen documentary. The contradiction was embarrassing. People were backpedaling so hard you'd think they were cycling uphill on a broken bike. And then the chaos got worse, and because the moment individuals tried to rewrite history, the receipts dropped even harder. Old clips resurfaced like a horror montage. TikTok commentators started stitching them into timelines. YouTubers started compiling archives. Twitter accounts dug up timestamps. Instagram pages posted side-by-side comparisons. Deleting the past only made the present look worse. The Black American response, "You made this bed, lie in it." Let's be honest, Black Americans watched all of this like spectators at a fireworks show, not joyful, but not surprised either. More like, so now the universe is catching up. We told you the attitude was wild years ago. For years, Somali individuals had been online saying, "We're not black, we're a superior race. We're not like Black Americans. We don't associate with them. We don't associate with them. Look down on them." And Black Americans, they said nothing. They let people talk. They let people posture. But the moment the fraud indictments hit, Black Americans opened the vault. Clips, compilations, screenshots, long-form analysis, TikTok stitches with timestamps, YouTube breakdowns, Twitter threads with the full history. Every disrespectful comment Somali individuals had thrown at Black Americans, archived, categorized, ready for display. Suddenly the people who had mocked Black Americans for years were begging for empathy. Don't generalize us. not all of us think like that, or stop making us look bad. But where was that energy when Somali individuals were insulting black Americans in public? Where was that empathy then? Where was the restraint? Where was the fairness? Where was the nuance? The silence from those same individuals back then said it all. So now black Americans responded with, "Don't ask us for solidarity now. We're not your shield." Because solidarity requires mutual respect, and respect was never there. The superiority narrative collapsed overnight. If arrogance has an expiry date, this scandal was the countdown timer. The superiority narrative that certain Somali TikTokers had been pushing for years evaporated instantly when the fraud cases came out. How do you call yourself superior when your paperwork is fraudulent, your clinics don't exist, your non-profits are shell operations, your therapy hours exceed the laws of physics, your pride is built on mockery instead of contribution? A superiority complex can't survive an audit. And that's what happened. The attitude couldn't hold up against the evidence. It was like the internet suddenly realized, hold on, so you're mocking black Americans while literally committing crimes black Americans were falsely stereotyped for? That hypocrisy was the real detonator, the media scramble. Please stop trending. Mainstream outlets tried desperately to soften the story. They danced around names. They danced around national origins. They danced around the fraud, but the internet did not care. The internet had all the details. The internet had the indictments. The internet had the names. The internet had the dates. The internet had the video proof. And worst of all for politicians, the internet had memory. The articles couldn't control the narrative anymore, not when raw footage was floating everywhere like digital fireworks. No amount of headlines like "Immigrant Community in Shock" could compete with screen-recorded montages of Somali individuals mocking Americans while participating in the exact fraud they joked about exploiting. The mismatch between the media's tone and the public's receipts was jarring, the bottom line. This fallout wasn't vengeance, it wasn't racism, it wasn't scapegoating, it was cause and effect. Somali individuals mocked black Americans, insulted African American culture, bragged about being a different race, flaunted superiority, laughed at the country sheltering them, exploited government programs, ran fraudulent clinics, laundered money through non-profits, documented it online like trophies, and then acted shocked when consequences arrived. Consequences aren't cruelty, consequences are math, consequences are gravity, consequences are inevitable. You cannot spit upward and expect not to get wet. At the end of the day, this entire situation boils down to something painfully simple. Actions have consequences, and you don't get to dodge them because you shouted the loudest online. You can't insult people for years, declare yourself above them, laugh at the systems feeding you, and then expect silence when the bill finally lands on the table. TPS was a lifeline, not a lifestyle. Fraud was a choice, not a misunderstanding. The arrogance was documented, the disrespect was recorded, and the fallout was earned. And the people who spent years pretending they were untouchable are suddenly discovering gravity, suddenly discovering accountability, suddenly discovering that silence is not support and identity is not immunity. The same mouths that bragged are the same mouths trembling now. The same hands that mocked are the same hands scrambling to delete. Every insult, every superiority monologue, every arrogant TikTok, all of it was a receipt, and receipts don't expire. This isn't about nationality. This isn't about ethnicity. This is about behaviour. Full stop. And when behaviour finally meets consequence, all you can do is stand where your choices left you. Because one truth never changes. Respect is earned. Fraud is exposed. Arrogance is punished. And consequences? They always arrive, even when you thought they never would. Not left, not right, just real.